As players begin to forge nations, conflicts over land disputes trigger a war, sending two of the most powerful nations on the server into a deadly conflict. This is Elderar, a large continent on the Rise and Rule Minecraft server. Very few have been able to conquer this vast continent, and many of those who have tried failed. Only small traces of once civilizations remain, but Elderar is about to welcome new visitors. Off the east coast of the continent, a small ship arrived on shore. While the full history of these new settlers is unknown, they arrive here looking to start a new life. At first, life on Elderar was great, but for this small new group of people, many challenges were ahead. Hold on, before we get into the video, there's something I need to do. Huge thank you to Sahara Compute for being the host of the Rise and Rule Minecraft server. With super friendly support, an easy to use panel, and great customer feedback, they are perfect if you are looking to start your own Minecraft server. For more information, visit the link in the description. As more settlers arrived on this continent, explorers began traveling west to find better land. As players began to explore the wilderness, many would group up, creating small civilizations. Popular destinations were by the coast, usually on fertile land. Well, except for these guys. Do you think food will grow in this? Of course! Just put some seeds down. Okay. I knew it! This place sucks! Nothing is gonna grow here, you idiot! Hey, that's not nice. Most players chose to settle near spawn. While the area around spawn became a bustling hub of activity, a few players had a different idea. They weren't interested in joining the ever-growing population near the rest of the players. Instead, they decided to form their own nation far from the chaos, the nation of Eldenheim. Eldenheim was a relatively small nation, nestled on the far west coast of the map, isolated from the larger clusters of settlements. Its founders were motivated by the desire for peace, aiming to create a space where they could avoid the conflicts that could become inevitable as other nations began to form around the map. The citizens of Eldenheim focused on their own growth, building a peaceful and self-sufficient community that wasn't dependent or involved in large-scale wars. And this was a good strategy. For now. While Eldenheim chose a path of peace and seclusion, the eastern side of the map was anything but peaceful. Two nations, Falkland and Arththeria, found themselves on a collision course, each vying for control of crucial islands in the Falkland Strait. Falkland, an island nation with grand aspirations, had its eyes set on the surrounding seas, determined to dominate the waterways and the islands within them. Their ambition wasn't just to secure their own shores, but to extend their reach, conquering the islands that dotted the sea. Falkland wasn't looking for peace, they were hungry for power, and anyone who dared to cross into their territory was met with a fierce warning. Falkland was ready for battle. On the other side of the strait lay Arththeria, a nation with different ideals. While their neighbors were focused on domination, Arththeria had a vision of peaceful expansion. Also, just to note, it's not Arththeria, it's Arththeria, but I already spelled it out on the script Arththeria, so we're just going with that for now, okay? Their plans involved the creation of a sprawling network of towns, connected by roads and trade, building a nation that would span the landscape. But like Falkland, they had their eyes on the same prize, the islands. Arththeria's players were driven by a sense of community and a desire to see their nation grow, not through war, but through collaboration and infrastructure. However, the islands in the Falkland Strait stood in their way, vital pieces of land they couldn't ignore. For Arththeria, securing these islands meant greater access to resources. The conflict between Falkland and Arththeria amplified when Arththeria sent players to the northern island. Their plan was simple: terraform the island, develop it, and use it as part of their expansion strategy. But as Arththeria's players began to gather resources and lay out their plans, Falkland had been watching. What had been a peaceful project for Arththeria was now seen as a direct challenge by Falkland. Determined not to let Arththeria claim the crucial piece of land, immediately set to work, laying down their own claims. They built swiftly, marking their territory with imposing fortifications. To Falkland, it wasn't just about the island, it was about control over the entire Falkland Strait. They accused Arththeria of trying to conquer the strait, expanding their borders and threatening Falkland's powers. But Arththeria, caught off guard by the aggressive move, denied any such intentions. Arththeria quickly claimed that their goals were peaceful, insisting that they had no desire to conquer the Falkland Strait or challenge Falkland's power. I don't even want both of those stupid islands, you can have the southern one. Let me think about it. Nope, I want both. Well, too bad. The northern island is mine. I'll even dump a bunch of sand into the ocean to connect the island to our mainland because I'm that petty. They actually did that. Oh, you better not. I already did. Hey, that's not. As both nations dug in their heels, each side became more entrenched in their position. Falkland demanded control of the island. Arththeria, unwilling to back down, stood firm in their defense of their plans. With the situation growing ever more volatile and no compromise in sight, Falkland made the ultimate decision. They declared war on Arththeria. The Falkland Strait was about to become a battlefield, and the stakes had never been higher. The first war on the server had begun. As the war between Falkland and Arththeria unfolded in the Falkland Strait, nations once focused on isolation now found themselves afraid of potential threats from neighboring nations. The peaceful nation of Eldenheim feared they could soon find themselves in a conflict with a neighboring nation. And to the northeast, a new nation had emerged, Garzonia. Garzonia was a fresh face in the world, a growing nation. Eldenheim knew they couldn't afford to ignore this new nation. And in a bid to secure their future and ensure peace in the region, Eldenheim reached out to Garzonia. What followed was a pivotal moment. Friends? Yes, friends. Nice. You kind of look like a face. The nations of Eldenheim and Garzonia united under the Eldenheim flag, and all was good. Well, except for these two. After the war declaration by Falkland, the two nations began preparing for war. Falkland sent a few players north to build an outpost across the river from North Arththeria. And Arththeria fortified their southern beach. Tensions continued to grow, and eventually Arththeria would make the first move. In the middle of the night, Arththerian troops marched north, towards the new Falkland outpost. The plan was simple. Head north and approach the new outpost from the opposite side of the beach, hoping to catch Falkland off guard and quickly take over the outpost. Controlling this spot would be crucial to an Arththerian victory, knowing that Falkland's military size would be nearly impossible to defeat at full force. After taking over the outpost, Arththeria hoped to then close in on Falkland's mainland from the north, a surprise invasion that Falkland would not be ready for. However, players from the Falkland mainland noticed the movement of Arththeria troops and quickly warned others. Falkland rallied their troops and sent them to the new outpost, knowing it would be Arththeria's target. The Arththerian troops reached the river and began to cross it, but just as they got over the bridge, out of the shadows, the Falkland army appeared. Fighting broke out, and the first battle of the war had begun. Fighting continued throughout the night. The dark environment made it difficult for both sides. It wasn't until morning when things started to shift. As the sun rose, Falkland began to pick off the Arththerian troops, forcing the Arththerians to retreat back over the bridge. Minute by minute, the Falkland soldiers pushed forward until they reached the northern border of Arththeria. Falkland had advanced into Arththeria, and they had won the first battle. As Falkland began to push towards the Arththerian capital, the Arththerian soldiers grouped up south of the city on the beach, knowing that they would have to do anything they could to win this war. Falkland reinforcements arrived in Arththeria to replace any of the soldiers lost in the first battle, and now Falkland was ready to invade the capital. The battle was hard fought. The Arththerians stood their ground, holding off the Falkland soldiers for a significant time. The Arththerians used a dog army, elaborate traps, and the will to stay alive to prevent the Falkland soldiers from wiping them out. However, the mere numbers and size of the Falkland army was too much, and the Arththerians began dropping like flies until there was just one left. They retreated to the southern tip of the nation, looking back at the city they watched get built, the city they called home. For a moment, it seemed there was nothing they could do. But in a moment of bravery, they charged back towards the city, probably not looking to somehow win this battle, but to die honorably, fighting for their nation. Eventually, the final Arththerian was defeated. Falkland had won the war. Casualties ran high for both sides, and reconstruction and recovery from this war would be a daunting challenge. The two nations met, and Falkland demanded that the islands be returned to their natural state, and ownership be given to the nation of Falkland. As the rest of the world watches, the question now is, will players choose diplomacy to reduce the chances of more conflicts? Or will this shed light on the ever-growing hunger to rise and rule?